Hello, everyone, and my name is John Dupuy. I'm CEO of iAwake's Technologies, and this is CTO Douglas Prater, and we have with us Samuel Törnqvist, who is the initiative genius behind Hugh Grace, and this is December 2019, and we're getting ready to release this. And I've been working with the product, and I'm amazed. It is to use an American sports metaphor, it is a home run out of the park, slam dunk. That's mixing them, but anyway, it's a great tool and product. And I want to speak more about this, but Sammy, will you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to be involved in transformative sound and using a human voice in this way?
Well, yes, let's see. I'm Samuel. I am from Sweden. I have lived in many parts of the world. I'm mainly now a composer, but I've also worked a lot with voice work, teaching people about voice, speaking and singing in various different, in schools or private. I've also had a huge interest for example, things like integral, iAwake, meditation. I've been involved with the diamond approach or the Ridwan school for a while. I still am in spirit, so to speak. I am a big fan. And I've often wondered how I could sort of combine these passions of music and spirituality, if I use that word. And that has never been super clear. It had just evolved in certain ways. Like when I teach, my voice work has in some way almost become what you can call therapy. I mean, I don't say that. It is just voice work, and some people just want to learn how to sing. But the voice is so connected to yourself, so it just becomes more about the person, and it goes deeper and deeper if the subject wants to. So the whole Hugh Grace thing, well, I really was missing a part of the group work that happens in the diamond approach. They do many different techniques, but one quite simple one that I thought was amazing and just extremely beautiful is when everybody is kind of improvising, but just on the word who, or who you say, or who, H-U-U, and you just sing any note you want. So we were in a group of, 50 to 80 people. I can't remember how many we were. And the just most amazing, beautiful sound comes out of that I've never heard anywhere else. And it doesn't seem to matter if people know music or not. And we're not trying to do a specific chord or anything. Just the combined voices of people who want to do the work, I guess, that helps. Just sing on this, on different notes, and the most amazing, beautiful chords come out. And I just thought, can I reproduce that somehow? I always wanted to do that because that's one of the most amazing experiences I've had. Well, yeah, I'll start there.
No, thank you. And we've been working on this for a long time. Like you've been working on. How long ago did we start this project?
I think it's about a year, actually.
Yeah. It's not always easy to get these things done. This is primarily human voices. Now, Doug has added some entrainment instrumentation under that, and I'll let you talk about that in a bit. But it was just primary. The thing that led this was the human voices and the harmonies. And my wife Pam has been involved in World Kirtan for many years and kind of drugging me along as part of the process. And so I'm always resisting any kind of group work because I probably need to do a lot of group work. But anyway, when I do get there, it's amazing. We get into these places, and it is a wonderful practice of individual and group mysticism. And when I say mysticism, I mean the experience, the actual lived experience of divinity, of that mystery. And it takes you into this place of beauty, stillness, and in my case, I'm talking about my experience meditating this morning, holy reverence in a way that just felt so natural and so easy, and which really makes the word grace a really good title for this, because we had all kinds of ideas, and we finally came down to grace, and we're thinking, well, that sounds a bit churchy or religious, but grace, and I'll give you my interpretation of what it means, is just the free gift, something that's given freely, and it seems so overwhelmingly beautiful that it seems impossible that this is just given freely. It's just amazing. And I kind of had a vision when I was doing this, and I saw, kind of the work and the practice of going through the desert and looking for water and just all of that. But when you finally find that beautiful pool of clear water under that overhang with the shade, and you immerse with that, that is the experience of grace. It might have taken a lot of work and labor and travail to get there, but when you're in the experience of the moment, the encounter with the Holy Grail, it just feels like just fresh, open beauty, love, and then somehow in that moment, all the suffering, all the pain, all the craziness, all the struggle is absolutely justified in the moment of that beauty. There's something going on here, and it's very, very deeply good.
Wow, yeah, that's great to hear. I thought about a lot of things. I very much recognize the sensations you're talking about, and I very much agree. I had one idea to start this project. I had this idea I wanted to create these sounds that I think I can't really recreate, but something else came out of it. But then doing the journey of this work, yeah, a lot of these images came up to me. I'm not particularly a Christian or anything, and I don't mind, but I've never really seen spirituality in that tradition so much. But I have to say that a lot of those images came up to me. And even though you said churchy, I just think there's something about that, the word grace. I've seen a lot of, like, even, it's not in my language, but angels, or even like Sistine Chapel kind of imagery, have come to a lot to me as I've done this, hearing the voices. And yeah, I don't know where I was going, but I really truly think that voices, and particularly for me, I'm quite a heady intellectual guy. If you know the Enneagram, I'm a 5, so it's all here. And I've noticed that voice and music is the thing that opens me more than anything else. So that was also a drive to want to do this, because I've noticed, as you said, in group work, in singing, or particularly music, my heart is completely open. And that was also something I wanted to get through. And now when I'm teaching music for younger kids, we're actually talking a little bit about the slavery time, the Afro-American culture that they brought and developed, blues, gospel, spirituals, and all that. And even though it's not exactly the same, I still thought about the idea of singing together.
Yes.
And how that really helped and strengthened the struggle, at least in the beginning, and then how it developed into spirituals and gospel as well.
Yeah, so much of our American music came from those who were enslaved.
Yeah.
From the traditional patterns they brought from primarily West Africa, and moved through this time of suffering and repression, and this great gift. And I'm a blues guitarist. I'm deeply and singer, moved by this kind of the redemptive power of the blues, that allows you to take suffering and makes you feel good about feeling really terrible. And, I'm now in Louisiana, living right in the Delta area where all this stuff was born. So we go out here and hang out with the people here. And anyway, I just want to put in a plug for that, because it's so meaningful, and you brought it up. So.
Yeah, and I just want to say again, it's not really about that particular tradition, but the whole idea of that, how voices is, how healing it can be, and singing together, how it really impacts you. And that I had a lot of those images actually from, well, yeah, I guess because I'm brought up that way. I got in contact with a little bit more of my Christian tradition. Yeah. I'm not saying this is a Christian thing or anything. It just happened to come up as well.
Yeah, and I use the word churchy, and that might be a little dismissive of churches, which is, I'm sorry, I come from the Christian tradition also, and my first big spiritual experience opening was, I think it was 11 or 12, and it was I was reading the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew. And just so after all these years of struggling with God and purpose and my relationship and mysticism and all of this stuff, it basically came down to what I discovered when I was that age, that God is love, God is everywhere. And if I were going to say I'm a Christian, I would say I'm a Sermon on the Mount Christian. You know, after that, it gets a little murky for me these days. But if we could stick to blessed are the poor, right? Blessed are the meek, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are those who suffer, you know. I think we would have a Christianity that's stood the test of time and really brought forth the loving heart of this man, this mystery, Jesus. So.
No, but that's great. I just wanted to say as well that whatever tradition you're interested in or like or not, for me in the end, it's, I think you, Grace, is really a good name in the end. I'm getting more, I think it's very good because it's all about love and acceptance and grace. And for me, that sounds like words I don't really express. It sounds, I mean, I would say hippie, love and peace and understanding, you know, but I'm saying that because I don't use those words. But so I really mean it, that it's become about a certain acceptance and compassion and love that I'm not always connected to be honest. I might think about them,
right?
But feel them and sense them. That has been, through my work and through this, that's been an opening. Yeah.
Well, we often create what we need, you know, for your five-ish head-centered self. I'm sure creating this and has given you a tool to go back into the heart and assimilate these parts that a five naturally, in an unhealthy way, would like to reject. And of course, a healthy five, like all of us, has to re-inhabit these places. But you've created a great heart-opening tool and a great tool for contemplative prayer. And when I say contemplative, I mean experiencing the experience of the divine, where you can still the mind. And these days, for me, meditation is a lot of things, but one of the things it's preparation for prayer. So when you can finally still yourself down and all this, and then you're just in the presence of, you know, divinity, of God, if you will, or spirit, however you want to say that, it's undeniable, and there it is. And that the only reason that I do have kind of a God-centric spiritual path that's emerged from all these years, simply because he or she keeps showing up. Every time I get quiet and shut my eyes, you know, I can't really deny it. So it hasn't been it is a philosophical choice, but it's definitely been a phenomenologically motivated. And from my experience over these many decades that I've been on this path and struggling to find and be with and be part of, and understanding my connection to that. There is a second person sense of divinity that I seem to connect with, and when I'm hurting and I'm down, seems to be there for me and helps. But that's my experience, and everyone has to. You can't. Somebody said that God has no grandchildren. In other words, you can't get there off the spiritual depth of your grandmother. At a certain point, I mean, that can be a real help if you had a really wise, deep grandmother. But at a certain point, you have to do the work yourself. You have to, as they say in the West here, you have to saddle your own bronc and ride that, and come to terms with it in your own self.
It's nice to say that because I tend to do everything myself, or at least have that sort of ideal that I should save everybody and myself. And cool, it's good to do your own work, of course. But this piece for me has been a lot about also accepting that someone out there is helping you, that there is support. That I felt a lot like feeling. You know, I mean, the typical old mythical idea is that there's a guardian angel. I don't necessarily perhaps see guardian angels around me, but just a sensation that you're not alone. I like that idea too.
So you've experienced that in your work, this sense of protection and guidance and.
More than I wanted to accept before, and actually creating this piece has sort of been a little bit more acceptance of that. You know, Wilbur talks about 3-2-1 God, if you guys are familiar. And a lot of people tend to do first and third person a lot. And I realized that tends to be me too. So this is a little bit about second person as well. And it's good for me at least to include that.
For all you recovering Buddhists out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding, folks. Love it. Love it. Let's bring Doug. You're a big part of this, and you were given this beautiful thing, unlike anything we've done before, and not fix it, but add the entrainment. Tell us about your process and your encounter with this and how it emerged, this beautiful piece of work you guys have done.
Yeah, well, thank you, John, for that. And especially Samuel, too. Thank you for providing this gift. It has really been a treat to work on and add my part to. And I wanted to say, too, that you and I have corresponded by email a fair bit, but this is the first time speaking with you in person. And I resonate so much with so many of the things that you have said here and the experiences that led you to create this. I am also a type 5 who tends to be a little bit too heady. I also have found that singing and using the voice, struggled with second person spirituality as well. Found that singing and using the voice can be the most powerful tool for getting out of that head and into the body, and that the voice and chanting and doing this kind of work is, especially if you're chanting with a group of people, it brings you out of yourself into union with others, which can be a challenge for me. And the voice, when you're singing, when you're chanting, forces you to regulate your breath in such a powerful way. And then the voice is such a rich and resonant tonality that the vibrations and the overtones and all these things actually come from within you and vibrate at a cellular level, your entire body, your bones. There's spirit moving through you as you breathe in and hum out. And it was such a gift for me to be able to work with this, to take this beautiful piece of music that you had created and add entrainment to it. And because I loved what you did so much, I wanted to keep that as pure as I was able to. So I didn't go through and add any extra instrumentation or anything like that. I separated this using a number of techniques to kind of modulate what you had already done without adding or without taking away from the power that was already there. Because even without the entrainment, this is an incredibly powerful piece. And my mission was to see how I could complement that and add to that in a way that will be even more helpful for people in reaching these mystical states. In our alpha testing of this program too, and you both have talked a little bit about visions and vision quests and seeing things. And that's an experience that a lot of us had. It just generated some unbelievably rich visual environments for everyone who listened to it, things that were mystical and graceful and full of color and light. The image of cathedrals and the profound spiritual connection that comes from being in a holy place like that is something that really came through in your music. So hopefully what I have added will help people to reach a series of deepening states throughout the three tracks of this program. The first track takes you into an alpha state, which is really the bridge between everyday waking consciousness and the deeper, more mystical things. Track 2 brings us into a theta state, and track 3 brings us into a high delta state for a very deep, non-dual connection to the oneness of everything that is so profoundly brought forth in the voices. I wanted to ask, Samuel, as you were talking about this, and I imagine there are a number of different practices based on what people are doing that make great complements to listening to and experiencing this work, but I wanted to ask whether you would encourage people to use their voice along with it, to sing, to hum, to improvise, to chant along with the work you've done as part of the meditation practice.
Absolutely, yeah. It's absolutely. It's funny. I hadn't thought about it so much, but absolutely, yes. That's great. I think that really helps the practice. I think it's very good to use the voice in meditation. So yeah, and I just want to say thank you. I'm extremely humbled and honored by all your really, really nice words. I had no idea, really. I haven't really thought about how it affects other people yet. So yeah, it's really nice to hear. So thank you. And I'm sure you have brought some great tools to it. I'm sure the what do you call the entrainment will be very helpful. So,
we're moving into the holidays, so if some of you are going to be going to church, and maybe it's not a church of your choice, but a church of your, your familiar, your family obligation. Thing I've done before is put on little earbuds and entrain while the service is going on, and I've had such great spiritual experiences. So, and it looks like you may have, have hearing aids or something like that, and you just, well, I can't hear the sermon. So, there's always a story, which is true. I couldn't hear at this church I was going to, but I noticed instead of just, and that's, of course, my adolescent rebellious self, doesn't want to go to church and da-da-da. If I just go in there and shut up and participate, and even if I'm, just entraining the brain, I've found that I've had really, really wonderful experiences of being with other people and praying and being there in that way. So there's nothing wrong with any of our religions, that if we bring back true real mysticism and real connection, that won't be, and the compassion that emerges from this type of experience. So you can have all your structures and everything, but if you forget the divine heart of the both individual and the group experience, it's a pretty dry place to be. And there's, it's a good place to have, fellowship or meet friends or something like that. But if you don't have that mystical spiritual core, it's pretty painful for me anyway. And so we can use this if you are a devout person in a church, use this as a tool for prayer, or if we're outside of any kind of organized structure, it is still the same thing. In prayer, I'm talking about emptying and opening to that which is always present. And amazing job you guys have done. Very powerful stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one last thing. What else did we miss in this conversation thus far that you would like to communicate with the people who are going to be practicing with this?
I don't know. What have we talked about? What to expect or how to work with it? Have we said that? I don't know.
Do you have any suggestions about how one would say a beginner who hasn't really done a lot of meditation and not really sure to do with this stuff? What would you suggest?
Well, let me see. For me, this work is a lot about, one word for me is a lot of self-acceptance, but grace also works. Mm-hmm. And self-acceptance might not always work as true, but in a loving way that, things are as they are. And there's something incredibly beautiful about that. Sometimes self-acceptance can be very dark, obviously, and when you work on yourself. But in this case, it's more like things are fine. I'm protected, I'm here. It's good as it is. And for me, that was as a way of finding a peaceful moment to just be still and love what is. So I would say you could even lie down like a yoga nidra or something similar to this when you practice it. Let's try that and just concentrate actually on feeling safe, warm, maybe even seeing light if you can, or concentrate on your heart. And not perhaps worry too much about your meditation technique in this case. It's okay to do, but just actually to go along with it and see what happens. And perhaps even sing if you like to.
Absolutely. Doug, anything you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I like that suggestion. Don't worry too much about your technique with this one. Just allow the grace to come through. Allow grace to take you where it will.
Yeah, it definitely takes one. It's almost like your waves of something just kind of flowing through you. Very, very, very deep, very beautiful experience. Well, anyway, Samuel and Doug, thank you so much for your collaborative genius here. And thank you, Samuel, for, getting us to do this. I can't, it's been so long ago, I don't remember how it happened, but you had been a beta tester, part of the team with iAwake for a long time. And so anyway, you said, I have an idea, I have a dream, I have a vision, and we were smart enough to listen to that. And so thank you very much.
Anywhere else on the web that people can find you, learn more about you, hear more of your work?
Well, as I am a media production composer, you can find my site where you will hear more of that kind of music, which doesn't have too much to do with this. It's more music for film and media and stuff.
Yeah.
You just search for my name, but it's www, if anyone uses that anymore. My name completely together, samueltörnqvist.com. My daughter's coming in here to say hi. But just search for that, and then you can listen to some of my music. But it's not the same as this. Maybe more will come later. We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, and happy holidays, you guys.
The same. Thank you very much.